Well, moving into a wild segment here. It's very short, but you have Secretary of State Antony Blinken stated that the United States does not support Taiwan's independence after meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday. This is insane. I mean, he's clear about it. We had a video clip. He literally just said it outright. It wasn't like, oh, you got to read between the lines. You will hear in the clip, he literally just says it outright. So Blinken was in Beijing to warm U.S. relations with China, which have become strained in recent years over several issues, including Taiwan. But we do not support Taiwan independence, Blinken said. Exact quote, we do not support Taiwan independence. Blinken said at a press conference after his meeting with the Chinese president in Beijing, we remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. I mean, why don't we just hear it from the horse's mouth from Blinken saying this stuff, which is just, it's so astonishing that this is by, but it's Democrat Party for you folks. The same people that want to sit there and push freedom, which rightfully so, and say all these things are against a country that fled from Maoist China. I believe they were the nationalists that went to Taiwan to be free and liberated themselves. It's astonishing.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences. On Taiwan,
Man, there's a lot here. I mean, you almost got to pick and choose what you want to unpack because there's different ideas of what could be taking place. We've talked a lot here on the Bald Brad Show, and we've actually released audio and footage of this stuff, of the Chinese government, the military itself, having audio and stuff leaked out there that's talking about them, and documents too, about them invading Taiwan, how they were going to do it, and how quickly they were going to do it. When we started the Bald Brad Show about 2.5 years, there was actually, I think it was a general or a commander of the United States military that actually warned his forces here that expect an invasion of Taiwan to happen within the next 2 to 5 years or something like that. He actually got reprimanded for it. We've also seen where China's gone so far to actually detail out every single part of their plan to invade Taiwan to the point where they were talking about provinces going under and that they actually needed to build up these provinces in China because if they went down, those were kind of the mechanisms to supply whatever invasion was going to take place. And once those go down, the invasion is going to be cut off. So all this stuff has been leaked. It's been known that they're going to do this. So I'm curious of, Xi's like, hey, you know what? Biden's weak as heck. Look what Putin's doing with Ukraine. Nobody's really stopping that guy. We're dead serious about invading Taiwan. And we got a lot of dirt on Joe Biden. So why don't you come out and say that Taiwan's not going to have their independence? You believe in one China? And I think we're good for a few more years. I'm curious what you all think about that idea and kind of that conspiracy, if that's what you want to call it. I don't have any information to prove that, but I find it interesting that all this stuff's coming out about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden with Burisma, and somehow, I'm trying to be careful with my words here, my language, receiving, I guess we will say, $5 million each for policy implications with Burisma, natural gas company, and getting into the market of the United States and others. I mean, there's a huge allegation taking place here, and I just find it odd that Joe Biden's family also received $3 million or more from the Chinese government. I also find it odd that when we were under COVID and we're having issues with supply chain, especially oil, that somehow like 1 million barrels or more was being sold to China, where it just so happens Hunter Biden had business dealings in the same province, in the same area. Go figure how that one works out. So there's a lot of connections here with the Biden family and the Chinese government that I find it odd that you have the cojones to come out and say that, you know, Taiwan doesn't have their independence, especially after we said, look, you go into Taiwan, we're going to sit there and, you know, we're going to have some issues here. So there's a lot of pull and tug here, which you didn't really have under the Trump administration. Nobody's going to F around with Trump. Putin wasn't going to invade Ukraine. China wasn't going to invade Taiwan or pull any of the shenanigans they're doing. But now when you got a weak president that falls up a flight of stairs, he falls downstairs, he trips over a rock, he trips over a blade of grass, he tripped over a sandbag on stage during a graduation ceremony, he fumbles through his words. I mean, hell, if you haven't seen that video of the two knuckleheads, the Democrats, what is it, Joe Biden and Fetterman, standing right next to each other, can you get more of a symbol of what the Democrat Party looks like today, with Fetterman on the mic fumbling through his words? Granted, he has a medical condition, and then you have Joe Biden, who I guess has a medical condition as well, that sits there and fumbles through his words. I mean, they're both standing on stage next to each other. It literally sums up the Democrat Party for you and where they're at today. I mean, the other person that you would have would be number 3, right? You would have Hillary Clinton, coughing all the time and passing out and having to be freaking chauffeured into a van by Secret Service, whoever her handlers were. It's astonishing who the Democrats vote for, but nobody wants to talk about that. You literally had Dianne Feinstein practically being chauffeured out on a gurney like Joe Biden is, but if you want to see a future of Joe Biden, look at Dianne Feinstein. I'm not trying to make fun of her. I mean, it's terrible what she's going through, but she's hanging in there. She's still holding her position, but just look who the Democrats are for. Look who the Democrats put in office. Nancy Pelosi. Can't tell whether she's smiling or not. Dentures are going to fall out of her face. I mean, we're going on a huge long tangent here, and forgive me, it's just astonishing to me that you have the cojones here as a Democrat Party to come out and say you're not going to support Taiwan even after years. We're a country of freedom and independence, and now you're going to say, well, we don't believe that they should have their independence. So wild. Can't believe we live in this era and this time. The Secretary of State met with President Xi for about 35 minutes at the Great Hall. Ooh, that's a lot of time. Of the people on the west side of the Tiananmen Square. Blinken reiterated that the long-standing U.S. One China policy has not changed. China holds that there is a one China that includes Taiwan as a Chinese territory and has considered annexing Taiwan by force. I mean, major consideration, by the way. A lot of people think it's going to happen even with the next couple of years here. I've been saying that for the last 2.5 years. The U.S. maintains informal diplomatic relations with Taiwan. You got to love that word, informal diplomatic relations. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, for whatever she's worth, had some sort of relation with Taiwan, and the Chinese government lost their minds. Blinken added that the U.S. remains committed to its responsibility under the Taiwan Relations Act, which includes making sure Taiwan has the ability to defend itself. That's an interesting... Well, if they're independent, or rather, if you don't believe in their independence, I should say, and you think it's one China policy, then what would they have to defend themselves from? It's just China. China's just flying a few hundred military planes over them to bomb them to smithereens. But why? They're all one China policy. What are you talking about, Blinken? Yeah. Includes that Taiwan has the ability to defend itself. Oh, okay, come on. During the meeting, Blinken said that he raised U.S. concerns about China's provocation actions in the waters around Taiwan. How about not just the waters? How about you talk about the air? You gotta love that he had a 35-minute meeting with Xi, and he's talking about Taiwan, but the Chinese government is literally flying balloons over many countries, like in the 40s of countries, but they fly one from mainland China all the way to the United States. You know what Joe Biden said about that? He's literally on camera. He's being interviewed by the press, and he talks about how, oh, well, the Chinese government didn't really know it was happening. Oh, it was a mistake. Is basically, I'm paraphrasing. It was a mistake by the Chinese government. Yeah, they didn't really know. The leaders had no idea, and they weren't really sure like what they were getting, and they didn't really have good communications from the spy balloon that was flying across. Astonishing from the president, and he goes, they were a little embarrassed that we shot it out of the sky. Really, you're not embarrassed, Joe, that you waited till it flew over the entire United States to shoot it out of the sky? You're not embarrassed at all that you didn't even catch this thing, and that you missed? You spent like $500,000, and we missed a balloon out of the sky. I understand it's probably, well, it's not even small. It's a massive balloon, but we're not embarrassed. No. The fact that you shot 3 other objects out of the sky as well, no information on that, you guys. We were told by John Kirby that, well, it's in rough terrain. We can't get it. When has it ever been an issue of like rough terrain? You're telling me there's no guys that we have trained that could sit there and go through rough terrain to gather some sort of intelligence that supposedly was spying on us? I think it was embarrassing. I think it was a party balloon. That's what I think. I think it's some kid's 8th birthday. You got Spider-Man party balloon flying over the skies, and Joe Biden, because he's cognitively inept to do his job, shot it out of the sky and spent $1 million missile. That's what I think happened. But, conspiracy theory, who the hell knows? We'll never find out. We don't find out anything from this government anymore. Quote, we and many others have deep concerns about some of the provocative actions that China has taken in recent years, going back to 2016. Interesting they're going back to only 2016. Why aren't you going back to Obama administration? It's weird how you always stop at the Trump administration. You guys notice that? Like anything that's spoken of goes back just to the Trump administration. Prime example, illegal immigration. With caging families, caging children and families, right? You're separating them, you're ripping them out of the arms was the conversation at hand from the Democrat Party and the progressive left, as well as the Biden administration and Karine Jean-Pierre. And it was Jen Psaki who said that most, I guess, quote unquote, recently. You're ripping them out of the arms of the children. Trump was doing it. No, it was coming from the Obama administration. You can't really even blame Obama. He was kind of executing the laws on the books because that's his job as the executive branch. But no, he was doing it too, but you don't want to talk about that. Joe Biden actually still does it, but nobody wants to talk about that. I mean, there was more people in cages under the Biden administration right now than there was under the Trump administration. Nobody wants to talk about that. It's astonishing that AOC's not back down there saying, oh, they're drinking out of toilets when the water fountain's connected to the toilet. And by the way, our drinking water is the same as our toilet water. It's the best water. It's the best water you can drink out of, folks. The American institutions, the American freedom of water. The best water you can drink. You can't do that in any other country. Not mocking Trump. I love the man. I'll probably vote for him again. But I'm just saying, it's astonishing, the spinaroo and all the stuff that's coming out from this administration. Well, and the reason that this is a concern for so many countries, not just the United States, is that it were to be a crisis over Taiwan, the likelihood is that it would produce an economic crisis that could affect quite literally the entire world. I mean, you might be talking about World War III if something like that might happen. That was a question I proposed many, many times, and maybe a great question for all of you in the comment section below. Do you think that we should protect Taiwan if China does invade it? Because there's a possibility of a World War III at that point. Are you willing to send Americans, guys my age, me probably, as well as a lot of other men and women, to a world war with a new axis that's basically being created with Russia and China and others? Is that what we should do for a small island like Taiwan to conserve their independence from China, of which the Democrat Party and Joe Biden don't believe should be had? You know, in the comment section below. I'm really curious on this, folks. I really am. Blinken referenced the high level of commercial container traffic that goes through the Taiwan Strait every day, as well as the high percentage of semiconductors that are manufactured in Taiwan. Well, hopefully we can get that under wraps here, but who the hell knows? You got the CHIP Act, I think Joe Biden signed, which might be a good thing. We will have to see. And if it is a good thing, we'll be sure to sit here and announce it on the Bald Brad Show that it was a good thing. And I think we need to have more manufacturing here in the United States. The problem is you have these unions that sit there and outcompete the private sector. I shouldn't say this, the private sector, but they outcompete themselves on a global level. And so we have to outsource a lot of this manufacturing because we can get it for cheaper. People aren't going to buy expensive products. They have trouble even maintaining a checkbook right now. They have trouble paying their bills. They want stuff cheap. And if you build it here in America, I love America, build by America, and I will support it. And I do shell out more money to buy an American product over any other product, but it is more expensive. And people struggle with that. And so if we're going to do it here, I'm not even saying you should subsidize it, because subsidizing is just you paying more at the end of the day through taxes and other means. We got to figure this out. But if you unionize something, I'm not saying you need to unionize it, but if you're going to build it here in the United States, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. Build America, make America great again, folks. You got to support American products. So if as a result of a crisis that was taken offline, it would have a dramatic consequence for virtually every country around the world. I mean, it already has, right? The chips through this supply chain issue are just screwed. I mean, you have thousands of trucks sitting in the desert. I don't know if you guys seen video footage of that. Thousands of trucks and cars just sitting out there in the desert from like 2020 to 2022. I'm still waiting for that bubble to pop, by the way, where it's like, yeah, we have too many vehicles. Hell, the price has really dropped. I'll buy myself a car. I have never had a new car. I've always bought used. You should always buy used, by the way. There's a little bit of a financial advice for y'all, but it's just wild here of like, well, it could have virtually massive consequences for every country. Yeah. How about like every country in terms of death, not just like manufacturing supply chain issues, just the fact that you might enter a world war on this as some serious crap. And you have the cojones that come out and say, well, we don't really support Taiwan's independence. I mean, it goes on and on, folks, about this whole thing, but I would love to know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think we should protect Taiwan if they do invade, or if they get invaded by China? Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.